Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Valerie Escropola of College of Arts and Sciences of Southwestern University, FINMA. Welcome to another exciting conversation that will tackle the best future of IT students, provided they will make a sound choice and will take the right path. Today's webinar is brought to us by the College of Information Technology of Southwestern University, FINMA, in partnership with Microsoft and Lexmark. Everyone, please settle down now as we begin with the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Sa kabila ng mga pagsubok, sa pamamagitan ng ating kapit-bisig ng pagkakaisa, manalig tayo na magkakasama nating sasalubungin ang bagong umaga. At tuloy-tuloy papandayin ang mas mabuting buhay para sa ating mga kababayan. Sa isang bayang matatag, malaya, at mapayapa.
Sayang mag-ibig, dalas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tulad ka ng magiging, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisigin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bugang, may dilagang tula ang awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang islap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na naririnig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng malaking pagsinta, buhay ang langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya lamang may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Here we prepare you for when you need to be your best. We teach, inspire, and push you to be smarter, better, and greater. We promise to deliver uncompromising education through trying times or improving opportunities. We help you learn more at your own pace, on your own time, in your own way. We help you do more, whether hands-on, online, or on the job. We give you a world to experience, one you will change in the future. Embrace your ambitious dreams and turn them into achievable realities. Because here, you can excel, expect to get better, and become the best that you can be. Southwestern University, FINMA.
Good afternoon once again. I hope all of us are well and let us continue to be safe and healthy so we can finally put this pandemic to its end. Information technology plays a vital role in the way we do things and the way we live. When COVID-19 pandemic hit the world, information technology was there when we were forced to make a sudden and necessary shift in our day-to-day activities. With that in mind, Southwestern University FINMA College of Information Technology gathers the leaders in IT for a series of innovative learning sessions in their first ever IT Career Summit. To give us further details of this gathering of IT giants and to give brief introductions about our guest speakers for today, may I call on the Dean of the College of Information Technology of Southwestern University, FINMA, Dean Regan Apakid.
Thank you, Val. So good afternoon, everyone. Choosing a college degree program is a critical decision to make because it has a huge impact on your future. Thus, it would be really great if you can choose what you want based on your interest, passion, and motivations. We would like to help you make the right choice through events like this, where we inform you about possible careers in IT, how to prepare for this, and the long-term prospects in these professions. From the start, when we redesigned our IT program in 2018, we have constantly engaged with and consulted the IT industry to ensure that we are aligned with its needs, requirements, and expectations. Thus, I believe that what we are doing in our BSIT program is right. We are confident that with our project-based approach, where you apply the skills to learn immediately in real-life projects, we can train and prepare you so that you will be employment ready or work ready as early as in your second year in our program. We are confident that even as a student, you can already start working and get paid for it. That's pretty exciting. To us later on to know more about our program, but in the meantime, let us hear from our distinguished guests this afternoon. I believe you know what Microsoft is, and you have heard of Lexmark, which has made Cebu its second home next to its headquarters in the US. On behalf of Southwestern University, FINMA, I'd like to thank our speakers for being with us this afternoon. So thank you, Janet, who is joining in all the way from Singapore. Thank you, John, who I believe is based in Cebu but is joining in from CDO now. To our dear audience, I believe you will learn a lot from our speakers, and I know that they will help you make the right decision about what college degree to take up. Or maybe if you're a professional now, to decide if you want to shift to an IT profession. So once again, good afternoon and thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that brief but comprehensive rationale and introduction, Dean Regan. I'm pretty sure students attending this event feel so lucky and privileged to get insights starting with two of the world's IT giants who are with us today. Without further ado, I'd like to call in our first speaker for this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, students, the tech mentor and senior engineering leader for data and artificial intelligence of Microsoft Asia Pacific region, Ms. Janet Uy.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay, let me just flash my screen. Okay. All good? Okay, I hope that everyone can see it clearly. Okay, so thank you so much and good afternoon, magandang hapon sa lahat. As I understand, like we have students, professionals, IT professionals joining from different parts of the Philippines, right? So, and I'm really excited. I have not done this for a while, speaking in front of a Philippine audience. So I've been in Singapore for more than 15 years. So it's glad to be back. And unfortunately, right, like this is just virtual. Masaya sana kung we can see each other live face to face, but it's okay. That's why IT is here, right? Like it makes these things possible, the virtual events to speak to you, to deliver the message. So I'm really thankful and excited to be here, right? So for today, as you can see from the title, right, like what we want to touch on is really what are the careers in IT and how best to prepare, whether you're a student, you're thinking about continuing your education, or you are thinking about what career to pursue. So I think you could probably get some pointers in here. So before I get into careers in IT, probably it's good that I share a little bit about my background, right? I chose this animated GIF just because I feel that, in this room or in this event, all of you can be dreamers, right? And I was there before when I was a student, right? Like I was a dreamer. I wanted to do a lot of things, and I'll share with you my journey. It's not a linear path. It has not always been easy, but hopefully you can pick up some points here and there, yeah? So right now I'm with Microsoft. As introduced earlier, I am the APAC Data and AI Customer Engineering Lead. So as you might have already known, right, like Microsoft offers different set of products, right? So you have probably the one you're more familiar with will be your Office, Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint we are using now. But we also do have other products within Microsoft, like for instance, the cloud technology, right? Azure, right? This is the product that we call. So I'm part of that group that takes care of data and AI under that Azure umbrella. So we take care of things like data engineering, databases, storage, compute power, analytics, if you've heard about Power BI, and then machine learning, artificial intelligence. So these are the things that that's the group that I'm part of, right? So I cover APAC, and therefore Philippines is actually one of the markets I cover. I'm based in Singapore, as mentioned, 15 years here. And myself, like, I'm also very passionate about advocating, women participating in this tech field. So I'll talk more about it later, right? Some of the myths around IT. So yeah, like even today, I've also do a lot of mentoring with students, schools, right, and startups. And prior to joining Microsoft, I was actually with Oracle, and similar company, right? Like Oracle, as you might have known, is also around cloud technology, databases, and I was covering data science and advanced analytics. So common in these two, it's a lot of data, a lot of analytics, a lot of IT embedded in it, right? And prior to that, right, I was with startups. So I started at early stage of my career, I was with startups. So I was part of the community, the startup community in Singapore. I did travel, to different parts of the world to kind of work with various startups in Europe and US, right? So, but pretty much I was leading the data science and R&D group in one of these startup communities. And at one point, I was working in the Philippines as well. I was assigned in the Philippines for a while, and then New York was one of the countries that I was assigned to. And probably you're wondering, right? Like, yeah, this is the career path that I had. How did I get here, right? Did I plan for it? Do I already know what I wanted to do when I was a student or looking into college, right? What was my background? Actually, for me, I started, my background is actually engineering, right? I started as an industrial and systems engineering student in Manila. I pursued my master's also in industrial and systems engineering, and I did my PhD in Singapore, right? But then while the background is actually engineering, one thing that I realized is that IT has always been like that kind of in parallel. I've been doing that a lot. And even at, the times right now, right? Like IT has become even more and more critical. If I have, if I have to go back, if you ask me, right? Would I have taken up IT instead of engineering? Well, it actually depends. If I have like second time around, maybe I would. But the most important thing is that regardless of where you start, right? It could be engineering, it could be IT, or maybe even medical, right? Like it doesn't really matter. But as long as you have the fundamentals right, like even right now, after completing bachelor's, master's, PhD, I'm also thinking about getting another degree, right? Like to continue my education. And that is, I'm thinking about doing that in information technology, right? So why? Because in this field, sobrang bilis ng velocity ng change, right? Technology evolves, and minsan ang hirap mag-catch up. So that's why you have to keep learning, keep evolving, and regardless where the starting point is, the fact is that you have to do things in parallel. Like for me, it's my interest or my strength is around science and math, but throughout, right, like well, I'm doing my bachelor's and master's, I've been doing a lot of upskilling around tech, around IT, a lot of those around computers and all this stuff, right? And in terms of application, for me, pretty much across all industries, right? So let's start ako as generic, right? Applicable to all, but in your case, it could be the other way around. Again, going back to your passion, right? So where is your interest? And it would be sometimes you start with an area that closer to your heart, like for instance, medicine, for instance, finance, accounting, but then you add a little, you layer it with say IT, engineering, and so on, right? So that's kind of the summary of my journey. It's non-linear path. You have to try to pick up things along the way to adjust, to evolve, and that kind of growth mindset that you need to have as you choose your career path, as you choose your kind of educational path of where you want to go. But say, for instance, you have thought about, IT, so that where is it heading to, like the IT landscape, right? So with COVID, as you have noticed, right, everything now it's digital, and with companies, everyone is like most of the companies, if not all, are actually in the race of getting more and more digitalized. And what does that mean, right? That means all these companies will be requiring more tech skills, right? And there will be more jobs around IT. And these are, I'm not sure if you can see it clearly, right? But in terms of the growing job demand, like data analysts and scientists, AI and machine learning, big data specialists, digital marketing and strategy specialists, all these process automation, robotics, business development specialists, all these information security. Security is again another big thing, software and application development, all these. Even though the names vary, but the fundamentals, right, underneath these job descriptions, job titles, it's really IT that's kind of driving all these work. And parang ano yan, like basic skills, right? Like you can, like for us, survival skills, like swimming, bike, that's how I kind of compare IT. It's like a fundamental foundation na dapat niyong mag-grasp and to be capable in it or skilled in it to succeed in this so-called century, right? So regardless of where you're coming from, I think on the left side, you can see actually the light blue, the third one, the information technology. You will see that if you start with this path, right, like you can almost go to all the career paths, like you can take on any role. Kasi nga, it's a fundamental skill that is needed or that's required in all these jobs, right? And even if you're changing career or you're shifting, right? So actually, many is to many, right? So you can be starting from IT going into a non-IT role, or you can start from engineering going to IT. So it actually doesn't matter, but that's kind of the main, yeah. Okay, so there's really, as you can see here, there's really no shortage of demand in terms of IT careers. And in terms of jobs, right, companies like Microsoft and all the other tech vendors, right, we are continuously investing money to actually evolve the technology or to bring new technology to the people, right, to empower people to do more stuff, right, to augment what humans can do. So we are constantly innovating, and that means, right, like in the next few years or even decades, right, we see more and more jobs around IT, and there are actually endless possibilities, right? Like who knows, one day that you'll be one of those who will be creating, the next super app or the next kind of product, like the Elon Musk, right? Or even Facebook, right? Mark Zuckerberg. So all these, I think there are endless opportunities. So the thing is, I think it's really for you to reflect of where you want to want to go, how you want to get started, and what's the end state that you're thinking about, right? And in terms of some of the myths, right, like throughout the years, in my experience in this field, one of the things that keeps coming up is that IT is not for women. That's not true. Well, as you can see, I'm a like kind of the living proof, right? That it's not IT is not just for guys, but it's like female, women, girls. You're very much welcome and needed in this industry. There are a lot of roles in there that actually women really excel. Like for instance, data science. There's the analytics. This is actually a great area for you to explore because it involves a lot of the creativity, data crunching, and all these, and requires a lot of patience, right? So IT is for everyone, right? So that's the number one myth that I think we can, discount. The second one is that IT is about sitting behind a computer doing programming forever. No, right? When sometimes it's like, okay, IT is like, programming, ang hirap naman. Every day you just look at the screen, black screen, right? Kind of typing the code away. That's not true. And as I later on, I will show you that there's just so much things that you can do with IT as your foundation. It's not just about programming. And as I said, right? If you start in IT, you could end up in a fashion industry next time because that's your passion, and you could be building the next fashion app, right? And you can be anywhere, or it could be the next medical machine powered by IT, right? Like AI, medical AI application. So it's not just about doing programming forever. And even within Microsoft, I'll show you later that the roles that we have inside, it's not just coding, right? So you have options like working in the back end, the front end, building applications, running analysis, doing data massaging, doing data processing. So there's just so much things that you can do in IT. Third is that IT is hard. You need to be a math genius, that it's purely analytical and does not offer room for creativity. Again, as you see, and as the examples that I cited, right? It's not just about the analytical stuff, like the hardcore kind of programming math that you will encounter day to day. There's a lot of room for creativity, like for instance, like web development, applications development, designing the logic. That actually requires a lot of thinking. And sometimes it's good to have people from diverse background coming into the team, right, to build projects so that we have every perspective in place. So that's just things that like insider, right? Like in projects, normally we have people from diverse groups joining the project team, right? So and the last one, as you see from the chart earlier, right? Like if I go back to the slide, oops, okay, earlier, right? The chart, you will see that IT jobs are not only for IT grads and vice versa. That means IT grads are not just, it's not just like in the future, you just not be taking up IT jobs, right? So it's many is to many, right? You can land anywhere, but I think the thing to remember in here is that the IT path, like as you look at the courses, like the modules and everything, this is just kind of like the first step, the foundation, because as you go along, right, you find yourself kind of doing things in parallel, right? Doing things like maybe taking up business courses along the way, right? Professional courses along the way to complement whatever you are doing. And so I think that's a very important thing to remember as you progress through your education, through your career, that is, you have to have that growth mindset to constantly evolve your skills as fast as how the technology is evolving, right? So even myself, maybe more than 10 years ago, what I've learned in school, what I've been doing in school, what I've been doing in my previous jobs I have to throw away probably a great percentage of those because they are no longer relevant today. Like even today, I do a lot of studying, I do a lot of certifications just so I could keep up with the technology. So there's like no limit to what you can learn. So I think that's a very important kind of attitude that you need to have. And here are just some examples of IT related roles. So I got this from Microsoft, right? Like with it, if you visit this site, our Microsoft certification website, you'll find, at least you'll get an idea of what are the different roles, not just inside Microsoft, but these are the roles that, that you can be encountering also in other companies. Like these are the roles that other companies also have. So for instance, developer, these are the professionals who develop, design, build, test, and maintain applications or solutions, right? You have data engineers in here, you have data scientists, AI engineer, solution architect, system administrator. Security is a big thing in this space right now, right? Wherein you have, these days, there are a lot of hackers, a lot of things going on, right? Scams online. So security is a big thing. If there is a room for you to specialize, that's actually one area that you can explore, right? Again, AI, machine learning is a big thing. Combine it with IT, it actually can do a lot, right? So possibilities again are endless. Then you have functional consultant, DevOps. So all these there are more actually. So I just pick out a few. And just as an example of how does it look like on a day-to-day, right? A day in the life of, say, a data engineer. So how does it look like? So in this digital world, pretty much we call this the value chain. It's data to action, right? So how do you generate data to action? So there are multiple paths to it, and depending on what you're doing in companies or what you're doing with maybe in your project or maybe in whatever you're planning, right? Like around digitalization. So depending on the path, right? It could be related more to data and business intelligence. Like from the data, you ask what's happening, and then what's the process around handling the data, the decision to action. So that's what we call like the business intelligence. Or from data to action, sometimes you involve more advanced analytics, for instance, right? So more future looking, like predictions, like what will happen, what should I do? It's repeatable, automation, right? So, and depending on where you are in this, your role could vary, right? We could start off like maybe you understand, or maybe you ask yourself and say, hey, I don't want to go into, app development, front end, web development. I would love to touch data more as I gather them raw, right? Like directly from source, like IoT, machines, smart devices. You want to get a hold of the data as soon as they come in. So maybe that role of a data engineer is more suitable, and the courses, the skill set around data engineer will be more suitable for you. However, some might say, hey, I don't want to be cleaning data. I don't want to be processing data, but I want to look at, say, business intelligence. I want to interpret data. I want to look at, analysis, dashboards, reports. Then maybe that it's the data analyst role that you are looking to or preparing for, right? Or it could be, I want to be more predictive. I want to be involved more in automation, kind of like the AI, right? Artificial intelligence mimicking human capabilities. Then that could be machine learning or AI engineer. Or you could say that, I want to do all, right? Like I want to do everything end to end. I want to touch a little bit of data. I want to do analysis. I want to build algorithms, codes, right? I want to build applications. Then maybe data scientist is the role, right? So there are a lot of things a lot of permutations. I just put here examples, but at the tail end, you could have app dev in here. You could have UI UX developer. You could have again security engineer, cutting across everywhere, right? From data ingestion all the way to action. So there are like just so many things that you can do. And in terms of careers, right? Like we can talk whole day about the various careers available. And this is just Microsoft alone, not to mention, you have so many other companies out there who probably are looking for the same set of skills, right? So you could just check out careersmicrosoft.com to understand what do we have, right? From students to professionals, what are the various roles that are there for you, like from full-time opportunities to project-based. So there are just so many, as you can see here, right? Like the professions. Probably it's like, what does consulting, what does it do? Sales, you have sales, of course, right? So as I mentioned, IT is everywhere. And even though you are not hardcore IT, right? Like there are places for you, as long as you have that kind of passion and interest in the technology, in the digital space, and most importantly, you understand like what you want to do towards the end, right? Whether it's in finance, whether it's in education, right? Not to discount, even in education, there are a lot of applications of IT in the education space, in the medical space, right? So there's so much things for you to do. So I'm down to my last slide. I think probably, and later on you can ask more questions if I miss anything, is that how do you prepare for it? Like how do you prepare for your career, whether as a student, already a professional, if you want to shift or wherever you are in that journey. I am a hiring manager myself. I do conduct interviews. I do look for candidates. I have my team with me actually across APAC, not just the Philippines. So what do we look for, right, when we hire people, right? I think for me and for many hiring managers, I think number one is passion. Because as I've mentioned, in this IT space, the velocity is so fast. There are just so many things to learn, so many things to do. And because the pace is very fast, if you don't have the passion, you will get burned out very easily. So I think that's very important that whatever you do, it must be something you like, right? So make sure that it will last you for many years, right? So passion is very important. Interest and culture fit, right? So when you choose the company, it's very important that you have that kind of, you believe in the philosophy, you believe in the company, what it's doing, you believe with, the principles that they are positioning. For instance, in Microsoft, in AI, right? Machine learning and AI, we have what we call as responsible AI. That means using technology to be fair, to not have any bias, to be accessible to all, regardless of whether, like which part of the group you are, minority or wherever, right? So we have that vision, and you must believe in the company culture. You must be truly interested in that company to be part of it, right? So for us, we're looking for that. And third, of course, skills and ability. But this pretty much you can learn it along the way. You can upskill along the way, right? But the first two, I think for me, is really the key, right? And the rest, skills, ability, that you can work on it along the way. Yeah. So that is my last slide. So thank you very much. And I think questions will come later. All right, so I will. Okay.
Thank you,
Over
Ms.
to you.
Uy. All right, thank you for the insightful presentation. So from Ms. Uy's presentation, we could gather that IT welcomes you regardless of where you start, as long as you have the fundamentals and keep on learning, especially since technology quickly evolves. She also says that it's especially important to have passion, interest, and growth mindset. And of course, everyone can be in IT. You don't have to be a math genius, and women are definitely welcome. Okay, moving on, we have another name in the global IT industry, With us today is the Head of Information Technology of the Enterprise Architecture and Solutions of Lexmark International, Mr. John Aceves.
Hello, good afternoon. So let me share my slide. So before I start, um, is everybody still awake? Can I have some? Let's have some short interaction before I'll start my presentation. Are we all still there? So can you give me thumbs up for those who are here in Zoom, and for those online? Are you all good there? Okay ba? So before I introduce myself, I would like to have this short exercise for everyone. No? So for those in Facebook, you can um, do the chat in the Facebook, and for those in here in Zoom, you could actually type your answers in Zoom. I have 5 questions that this is to check if you are really for IT or not. No? So let's see. And then after the 5 question, you tell me in the chat what is your score. So for every yes, that's 1 point. So the perfect score is 5. Okay ba? Okay ba? All right. So first question. Are you interested in working with technology? So if yes, give yourself 1 point. No, if no, no score. All right. Second, do you like solving problems? Is it your passion, as what Janet said? I like solving problems. Sino kaya gusto nito? So if you like that, another 1 point for you. Third, do you like studying and continuous learning? Is that something you like? Is that something that you are interested and you like to do for the rest of your life? No? So that's another thing. If yes, another 1 point. Fourth, do you like to work with a team? Do you like working with people? Or do you like working alone? So if you like working with team, you give yourself another 1 point. And then last but not the least, are you keen to details? Do you have this attitude that you like to really want to dig deep into some details? No? So kindly put yourself a score in the chat. I have seen here 4. Put your number 4, 5, 3 in Facebook. All right. So I have 3, 4. Good. So I have most of the chat. I see 3 and up ng mga scores. So that means most of the people here in the crowd are really into IT. So I guess I could proceed. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'd like to introduce my journey. As Janet came from a different background of IT. Me too. I also have my own journey. I actually graduated in Xavier University here in Cagayan de Oro. By the way, I am my full name is Cletus John Aceves. I live here in Cagayan de Oro, but I work in Cebu City, where Lexmark's headquarters is located. So my way back 1994, when I decided to choose a course, I think that's where you are in right now. I was confused what to choose. No, so I was confused between an engineering course or a business course or a medical course. During our time, ECE is it was the first introduction of the ECE. In fact, I'm one of the second batch of ECE in our school. So when there was no IT yet, so ECE, by the way, is Electronics and Communications Engineering. So it's an engineering course. It's a 5-year course. During that time, on our school, there was no specific IT course. You know? So what I did is because I like technology, I'd like to create. So I went to engineering school, and after that, um, just 4 months after my graduation, I was hired uh, by Globe Telecoms. Globe is one of the telecom giant here in the Philippines. So if you notice, it just took 4 months before uh, I have not taken my board exam yet during the time they hired me. It's because maybe I did one of the preparation I did. That's why I was able to get to a job immediately was because number one is I excel in my course. So one of the preparation that I did, and I hope also you could also take it into your heart is if you have that ability to excel in your class, to perform, no, don't waste the chance. For us who are hiring managers, when we look at the resumes that we receive, most of the time we look at honor students, and most of the time we hire them first before looking at the others. So that's one of the thing that I think if you are on that level, if you think you can excel, then uh, enroll in IT and do it your best. So second, if you're not that level, if you think parang hindi ako sa ganyan na level, there's another you can also excel in IT, no? Through your passion, as what Janet said, and also your attitude in work. Problem with attitude is you cannot see it on the resume. No, most of the companies will just tell you, would just guess what kind of attitude you have. But along the way, if you have that built-in attitude in work, then it would reflect in your interview. So that's another option for you to prepare yourself. No, in school, when we go to school, we are being tested. No, daming mga assignments, daming mga projects, mga deadlines. No, dealing with those stuff is your preparation. For me, it's my preparation before going into IT. So to cut the story short, after a year, I took the board exam in our engineering field. As you can see, Globe Telecom, I worked there as a telecoms engineer, systems engineer, and after 2006, around 7 years industry, I was hired as a senior network engineer in all-in-one. All-in-one is a global is actually a company in the US where we handle a global network. So it was my first experience of handling a big global infrastructure, handling data centers and multiple branches and managing the whole infrastructure. So if Janet is more on the software, I'm more on the infrastructure side of the IT. So after 2010, I decided to, because since this is I'm working remotely from this company, I decided to join Lexmark, which is also one of the global company. So Lexmark is not just a printing industry. We're also offering IoTs and cloud solutions for printing services. So luckily in Cebu City we have the R&D. So our main headquarters of Lexmark is in Lexington, Kentucky, but we have our head office, research and development here in Cebu, in India and EMEA. So this is we are a global company maintaining a lot of projects. No? So if you look at along my journey, the items that I mentioned to you about continuous learning is there. You need for you to prepare to be an IT. For me, you should not stop learning. No? So in every steps, like as of now, after all the years that I've been with IT, so for more than 20 years, I am still learning right now. So I'm now learning security, which is another field in IT industry. So basically, that is how my journey is. And on the next slide, I would like to show you what are the paths in IT that you can pursue. What are the careers in IT that you can pursue? I have a diagram here. It's, 3 circles and a square. So can you put in the chat one of the circle? This is and how I personally, this is just my personal categorization on how the careers in IT looks like. So I categorize it as number 1, we have software, you know. So luckily Janet mentioned about a lot of things about software. You know? So the career paths in software includes software developers, web designers, data analysts, application testers. So mostly they work in the software industry. And the second part of the second segment of IT that is also very important is the hardware. No? So you have the software side, we have the hardware side. So the hardware side would include technicians, desktop support, network engineers, server admins, data center, or we call it infrastructure in short. So for those in Facebook and in Zoom, what do you think is the third circle here? So siguro yung familiar, software, we have software, no? We have hardware. So meron pa palang pangatlo. So what do you think is the third? We say segment of an IT is. Any idea from the whole team, from this group? Educator, I have here network. I think network would belong to hardware. Full stack, customer service, telecom. What else? Come on. Ato kung meron pa bang nakikinig. You have people, you have networking. What do you think? Technology, peopleware. What else? So database technology. Okay. All right. I see some kind of similar answer, but in a different lang yung pagka-present. No? The third, this is just my personal na when I classify what are the careers in IT. This is actually, for me, this is I put it soft skills, or what we call peopleware. What is this? No, somebody, what does this mean? I'd like to elaborate this one because most of the time we forgot that this is part of this. Is this a skill that I need to learn so that I could be effective in IT? So what is soft skills? So soft skills for me is it's also known as common skills or core skills, are skills which are desirable in a profession. So this includes critical thinking, problem solving, public speaking, professional writing, teamwork, digital literacy, leadership, professional attitude, work ethics, career management, and intercultural fluency. So there are a lot more. So if you look at, I call it soft skills because these are something that you learn, you can learn, no? You can learn right now, where you are right now, while you are still studying. You can develop this kind of skill, and along the way, you also develop it when you start working. So here are the top 10 soft skills that we need to learn, no? For us to become an effective IT. Time management, communication skills, adaptability, problem solving, teamwork, creativity, leadership, interpersonal skills, work ethics, and attention to details. So if you look at these soft skills, these are skills that you don't need to enroll enroll on a course, but it's something that you need to do. No, it's an attitude that we develop. No, and in school, when you enroll in IT, that is where you could develop the skills. No, when you do the projects, when you work with your team, when you collaborate with your classmates, or when you ask questions to your teacher, when you manage your time in handling your projects. So these are the soft skills that you could develop. No, and along the way, you could actually create job and position with these skills. No? Like for example, project manager or Scrum Master, or you can be a process owner, or you can be a manager. These are soft skills that requires you. These are job in IT that requires you to have this soft skills. Not really deep into software, not really deep into hardware, but you need that kind of charisma, or you have that kind of attitude to handle people, to work with problem. No? So these are also positioned in job or careers in IT that you can pursue. No? And along the way, if you can see, there are what you call mga the in-betweens. Like for example, if you are a manager and also you are good in software, you can manage, you can do help the support, or you can be a team leader, no, in this field. So either software or hardware, you can actually also have this career, no, in IT. Some careers that are convergence between software and hardware are because right now this is a growing field in IT, which many people are interested. Like DevNet actually is a development that is doing networking. So imagine, so it's a combination between a software job and a hardware role. AI and machine learning, artificial intelligence, we're trying to configure something so that we can automate. It can be automate application, a software, or a machine, or an equipment. So, like for example, you can do in surveillance system, no, CCTV, for example, you can automate some of those functions so that we can enhance the capability of the hardware. So we have IoT or smart solutions. What are smart solutions? Those are if you heard about smart city, smart campus deployment, those are hardware solutions that requires some software configurations. No? And if you look at in between, in the middle, these are the people, these are roles in IT or careers in IT that require you to at least have a global view or of hardware, both hardware and software, or soft skills. So this includes top management, solutions architect, if you are giving a solution to a customer, and also a CIO or CTO or chief information officer or chief technology officer. So if you look at, these are the careers in IT that I see on my point of view, as an IT professional. And in my journey of IT, I started with, if you look at the previous slide that I said, I started with hardware in telecom industry. And along the way, I developed soft skills that allows me to manage a team, that allows me to do project management. And now I am handling a application support group in Lexmark, which is software. So my journey in IT is a long journey, but it's a very productive one. Now I'm able to visualize the end-to-end requirement of the user because of this experience that I have in IT. So I hope for those that are listening here on this webinar, if you are really into IT, for those scoring 3 to 5, try to picture yourself, where will I position myself on this career? Do I have, where will I start? So it depends. It will depends on you. And the first thing is you need to, for me, you need to have a bachelor's degree. For me, that's the first one. You need to finish college, and then along the way, you could pursue some certifications, which I did, and the learning would be continuous. So it would be an unending learning for everyone. So So with that, if you look at the square, the last one is IT security. So I think security covers everything, software and hardware. So IT security has been very important nowadays, no? Because of the hacking and all those mga the news that you can hear, no? So IT security should be in everything when you pursue. So this is also one big field in IT that you could think of. Am I fit to that field? No? So I hope this short demonstration give you an idea on what career would I like to be in IT. And for me, the same with Janet. The best way to prepare for me is to make IT your passion. Even if it is not your passion and you're just being forced to take a course of IT, along the way you will fail and you will be burdened, no? Because IT, as what one of our first presenter said, is a fast moving industry, and only those people who have the passion of IT will be able to sustain that career in IT. So I hope this short webinar sharing that I did would give you an idea, and I hope na it would interest you, no, to be with us, join us in IT. So with that, thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aceves, for the interesting sharing. So that was quite a fun activity, sir. We got some quirky answers from our students, especially with the question on whether they like to work in teams or not. So Sir Aceves confirms what Ms. Oya has stated earlier. It is truly important to continue learning, even when you're already working in the industry, right? So as they both mentioned, IT is a fast-moving industry. So another interesting point was the Venn diagram on the different careers that are possible in IT. And it was quite interesting to hear how important soft skills are in IT. So it's not just software and hardware, right? So both of our speakers truly feel and emphasize that passion for IT is important so that you will be able to succeed and flourish in this industry. Once again, thank you very much, Ms. Janet Uy of Microsoft Asia Pacific Region and Mr. John Aceves of Lexmark International. What a timely discussion, most especially for our senior high school students who are now scouting or preparing for their college education. This is also a good opportunity for our college students to discern on the valuable inputs that our speakers just shared to us today. For us to know the insights of students on the message conveyed by our speakers, may we call on Hiroshi Akokoro, a student of the College of Information Technology of Southwestern University, FINMA, to give a short response on what he heard from our speakers.
Hello. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hiroshi Akokoro. I'm a fourth-year student, and I have been working throughout my college years. So about me, one of the more serious jobs that I took is developing a system for the LGU, and one of my most recent job is as a software engineer in a startup company located in Los Angeles, California. So being part of the BSIT program in Southwestern exposed me to a lot of modern day technologies that are relevant in today's IT industry. With that said, finding a job was not hard at all. The things that I have learned from instructors proved to be integral in my working experience. And this also speaks through to the Venn diagram that Sir John has presented about the soft skills, which I proudly have in my arsenal. And I use that to thrust myself into the industry as leaders in my respective departments, specifically in the front end development side. And one great example for this is the transition from the school's environment and the working environment. For me, it was quick and smooth, as we have been exposed to real-world scenarios of the industry. And for me, it is one of the biggest contributor in my professional experience. The abundance of opportunities for us to learn and work with well-established companies was also beneficial. Having been exposed to these companies allowed me to have the knowledge, skills, and confidence that is truly needed in any working environment. These are only one of the few examples of how I acquired apparent advantages from Southwestern Prima BSIT. It is truly a head start in anyone's professional career that the school would give to any of their students. I would like to encourage everyone to know more about the Southwestern University BSIT program. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you for that sharp response, Hiroshi. As Hiroshi mentioned, with the BSIT program of Southwestern University FINMA, he has had multiple opportunities to be exposed to real-world scenarios in the IT industry and to learn and work with well-established companies. Now the floor is open for questions from our audience. For those in the Zoom, feel free to send in your questions in the chat box. For those watching via FB Live, please write your queries in the comment section below. Okay, so we have our first question from a senior high school student from Negros. So this is a question for both speakers. This student asks, which is better for me, to have a tech specialization or to be some sort of a jack of all trades?
Sino mauna sa atin? Ay, ikaw na.
For me, jack of all trade is good if you're starting. So if you're just starting, it's good to know a lot of things, being a jack of all trades. But along the way, when you grow and mature, you need to specialize. It's only when you specialize that you will excel and grow more. Because if you keep yourself at the level, being a jack of all trade, then you will be stagnant. You cannot grow, and you cannot because most of the requirements or business requirements, they need someone who are expert on something, and you cannot be expert in everything. So I would say jack of all trade as starters, but along the way you need to have a specialty.
Yeah. And I agree with that, no, kasi especially in IT, right? Just speaking about the languages that you use to code, diba? That alone already has many different variations and flavors. And sometimes if you're not siguro unclear pa, and it's normal, even myself when I just started school, normal naman na hindi pa clear ano yung gusto mong mangyari, diba? So it's good to have to learn and understand a little bit of everything to get familiar with what tools are available, what technology is available, what are the skill set that would be the best for you to be able to deliver what you desire, right? So that's the kind of a way, an approach. But it doesn't mean na yun yung silver bullet. That it doesn't mean that that's the only way that's correct, na yun yung tamang path, right? If you're already, for instance, you're clear, like meron ka talagang interest in terms of security, right? The security for today has been a big topic. Then maybe that could be an area where you go deep. However, just be ready na as you go deep in one area, magda-diverge ka rin from time to time because you need to learn other stuff as well. Hindi siya one dimension, hindi siya like a linear path that you could that would take you to yung end state, diba? So regardless of where you start, whether it's a specialization or whether it's jack of all trades, right? Regardless, we like lahat, like you have that familiarity with the rest of technology. I think eventually dapat mag-converge tong dalawa, right? So I think that's from my perspective. Yeah. Naka-mute.
Thank you to both of our speakers. I hope that answers the question of our student and to any of the students or attendees who have the same question. Okay, so on to our next question. This is for Sir John Acebes. We have a question from a senior high school student from Caraga Science High School. Okay, so Sir John, do I need to be good in programming to succeed in IT?
Right? I mean, to tell you frankly, I am not good in programming. So my skill set is more on infrastructure. So I do have a little background only of programming. So I do the basics, but not really deep into it. So not really. So you can excel in IT in other fields like being a process owner, being or in the infrastructure side, where programming is not that used. But as the years grow, our industry, especially in networking, we are challenging and we are going into programming as well. Parang pupunta na rin sa programming because of the automation requirement, because of the new technology requirement that is being needed in the industry. So kahit hindi ka ganun ka masyadong good into it, as long as you have the background and you know where it's going, then I think you're good.
Pwede ba ako mag-add to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just to share with you on the software side, right? Like in Microsoft and other vendors, I'm not sure if our students have heard about low code, no code, right? So yun yung bagong trend ngayon where companies like Microsoft or technology companies are simplifying a lot of the manual work before na ginagawa ng IT professionals, because the whole philosophy behind it is that today dapat maging efficient tayo in our work. And those kind of very tedious programming work na pwede naman natin i-automate, those have already been kind of like packaged within the technology. So kaya I keep saying that regardless of your background or where you're starting from, right? Like it's actually possible that you get into IT because of the possibilities and because of the capabilities that are available already in technology. So even myself, I started having like in industrial systems engineering, right? It's more statistics, math. I didn't start with coding, but along the way, because related tong dalawang skill set, then I have to learn coding. And today I don't have to code because yung mga AI and machine learning technology, we have something called like AutoML or automated machine learning, wherein I don't have to code at all. Right. So yeah, those are the possibilities na hindi siya hard rule. Right?
Okay, thank you. Both our speakers actually answered the question, and that was great. So according to them, it's not a requirement for you to be good at it, but it is definitely a plus in the industry. Okay. All right, so next we have a question for Miss Janet Uy. What is the best way or approach to effectively learn IT skills? This is a question from our senior high school student here in Southwestern University, Penma.
Okay, best way to learn, right? Actually, unlimited yung sources ngayon. Like last time, maybe traditionally, tayo through schools, through our teachers, through our mentors, through our classmates, like within the school community. But actually today, on top of your courses, the modules that you're taking, you could actually do a lot of upskilling outside. Maraming mga online courses, even free, right? Courses that you can take to complement whatever you're learning in school. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like hindi ka, in a way, locked down into specific technology, but you could explore and get a flavor of what's available in the market. And then like with the different online courses na free and some are even paid, meron kang mga certifications that you can take along the way to kind of pick up the skills, right? And again, there are so many resources available out there, reading materials, and like webinars like this na sometimes like companies offer. Ang dami nang mapupulot doon. And it's all about, I think in IT, what's important is the practical, yung pag-practice, yung really to be learning and trying it out. Because in my experience, right, like yung iba talagang aral ng aral ng aral. But you don't memorize this stuff, but you really have to practice and do it. If you have the opportunity and have the chance to go on an internship, like for a few months, right? Like get into a project, get your hands dirty, try it out. That's the best way to learn. Kasi doon stick you kind of, it kind of becomes like a muscle memory once you start doing things, right? So complement those things that you learn in school with practical stuff outside. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Janet. All right, so Sir Regan, do you want to add on that?
Well, yeah. So, in relation to what Janet just said, her last statement about how to learn skills, yeah, it's for us. It's really more of the practice of it. We have seen in our students that if we provide them a real life situation wherein they can apply whatever skills they learn, whether it's programming, web development, mobile app development, when they actually get to deal with a real situation, that's where learning really picks up and it sticks. I mean, it's not memorization, it's not being able to memorize things, but it's more of doing it. And that's precisely what we're doing. It's part of, well, it's really FINMA Education's philosophy, or the approach that we're using is active learning. It's really more of, it's simply, we can think of it as learning by doing. And we have seen in our students how effective that is when they actually practice whatever knowledge or skills they gain from our teachers.
Thank you, Dean Regan. So it's important for both students and educators to have a more experiential learning approach to whatever industry that they will be in the future. Okay. All right. So our next question is for the dean still. So Sir Regan, what are you doing differently that makes your program better than other IT programs?
That's a difficult question, but well, for many years, the IT industry or companies hiring IT graduates have complained about the unpreparedness of IT graduates, meaning they will have to spend time to train these new employees to be productive or to help them with actual work already, meaning the graduates that IT schools have been producing were not work ready. And based on our consultations with the industry, we came to realize that, yeah, we really have to make sure that, our students should be prepared when they graduate or they apply for work later on. And that's why we decided on the project-based approach. And, if students apply, it's funny that companies are actually requiring experience from new graduates, right? And of course, the usual challenge for students is that new graduate nga ako, wala pa talaga akong experience. But in reality, we can provide that experience already in school. So that's how different our approach is to other schools. Because first year pa lang yung students namin, we actually expose them to real life projects already. Like web design, you can do web design in your first semester with us. When you learn to do coding, for example, or Python programming, you apply that in solving simple problems. But the essence of it is to really get them to apply that. And in our case, the idea is that every semester, our student should have gained a skill that will allow him to work already. Because of course, education really is an investment to many of our families, right? And we know, of course, the financial challenges that our students face. Some of them can't really afford to stay in college for 4 years before they get a job. The reality is that for many of them, it would really help if by first year pa lang sila, second year pa lang sila, they can already find jobs. And that's the good thing about IT. Because even as students, as we have seen in one of our students, si Hiroshi kanina, pwede na silang magtrabaho by doing web development. If they're really good, that's why tama yung sabi ni na Sir Jan and ni na Ma'am Janet. No? If you pursue your passion, marami kang matututunan, even on your own. There's a lot of tools, platforms that can help you learn already. And with these skills, you can find jobs that you can work on, real life jobs that you get paid for. That's how we do it in our program. So that even if by second year, mawalan sila ng, well, finances to, to support their education, pwede pa rin sila, no? They can work and even support their own education. So basically, they can study, learn some skills, find work to do. They can still continue to study because we credit skills, by the way, in our program. Meaning, if you already know how to do Java programming, and of course, we have a Java subject, for example, then we'll assess your skills. And then you can, if we know, we ascertain na marunong ka talagang mag Java programming or gumawa ng mobile app, then of course, you can proceed to learning other skills. So meaning in our program, it's possible to finish it in less than the usual, yung usual na 4 years na inaalat natin. So for me, that's how we do it. It's really more of making sure that they gain skills that they can apply to real life work already, even if they are students.
Okay, thank you so much, Dean Regan. And I think Hiroshi's testimonial earlier confirms how effective the IT program here in Southwestern University. Okay. So
And I'd like to add, Val, the way we do it is that we partner with companies outside of our school to provide us projects for students to work on. So in that sense, yung students namin as early as in first year or second year, they are already doing what we call internships. Kasi sa usual IT programs, yung internship will happen at the tail end of the program, pag fourth year na sila. But that's too long. Meaning, even in your first, second year, pwede ka na talaga na ma-expose sa real life work. And that's where our industry partnerships come in. So we proactively seek these partnerships, engage with companies para mayroong projects yung mga students namin na nagagawin.
Right. So there's early exposure, sir. Okay. So next question for the two speakers. If the pandemic does not end soon, what are the prospects for the IT profession? These are actually 3 questions in one. Next question, will IT professionals be in high demand? And final question, and if mag-end na ang pandemic, mag-end po ba ang IT profession?
Okay, siguro I can take that my perspective first, right? First question, I think na-answer na namin yun kanina sa presentation na especially in this pandemic, right? Talagang nag-boom yung IT industry. If you have been looking at the stock market na yung mga tech industries talagang nag-shoot up yung mga prices nila because puro virtual na. Just like now, what we're doing, right? Like virtual na. And similarly, companies are becoming more and more digitalized. Otherwise, they'll be out of business. So pretty much in terms of jobs, andyan yan, the IT jobs will be there. In fact, a lot in these 2 years, right? Na nagkaroon ng more IT-related jobs. And after the pandemic, whether how is it gonna look like? Well, I think magpa-persist yung mga jobs na yan because it's not like something that you put in there and then after that, ipupull out mo na. So it will persist and in fact magiging better, right? Like as in-accelerate lang nitong COVID yung in a way our roadmap, right? To getting there, right? Yung AI, machine learning that we have been talking about, probably before COVID, we have been talking about it lang. But because we've been put in that situation na kailangan natin mag-act, like companies have been scrambling for resources to make sure that we make it happen instead of 5 years, naging 2 years, right? So in-accelerate lang natin and we expect na parang pinaikli, which is a good thing, right? Like, I mean, looking at the positive side of COVID for IT, actually, naging maganda siya. And for us, that means learning new skills, getting, pero I guess pressure for mga learners rin, di ba? To keep up and to catch up with the technology. So yeah, I think that's my view from pretty much from all tech companies. It's gonna stay. Yeah.
Right. In my case, no, based on the infrastructure side of IT, when pandemic hits, everybody work from home. So wala na tira sa school. Everybody was schooling from home. So they want connectivity. Everyone wants connectivity. Everyone wants to have a PC. They want to connect. So it was we fast tracked the development of working anywhere with IT. After the pandemic, I believe it would still persist. Companies like ours and even schools, they have realized that we cannot just put everything in our campus or in our office. We need to be the new norm for work or working is not within a compound of an office anymore. It is everywhere. So that concept would stay. That concept would stay. Most especially, there's a lot of development of softwares and hardware to support that infrastructure because we're looking at the trend. That's where we're going. People wants to work anywhere they want. They can see their stocks, they can see their business, they can operate from anywhere. And that's even without the pandemic. So I would say, yeah, I agree with Janet. IT industry, it's a fast moving industry. It would still persist after the pandemic. So.
And if my changes man, it's just gonna shift. Diba?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yung on-prem world dati, you know, when we talk about software, diba? We talk about hardware na on-prem data centers within our premises. Well, nandun pa rin siya. It just shifted to the cloud. Diba? So it just gonna be shifting of technology, but the need is there.
Yeah. In fact, in our company, we have this flex work that after the pandemic, we can work 3 times in the office, 2 times at home or anywhere we like. So that's what we're happening in our company. So I know there's a lot of small companies who have dissolved their offices and allowed their employees to work from their homes. So I think that would persist.
And I forgot to mention, no, and I'm not sure if yung ating mga students, mga millennials, have you heard about the metaverse? Yan yung future, di ba? Sa yung metaverse that we can get to interact in the metaverse soon. Now, just like how we interact in the physical world. Parang, in a way, mga yung Pokemon na game, but us interacting in that so-called metaverse. I'm excited because yung mga augmented reality, virtual reality, all this will come into play. And imagine yung possibility, both good and bad, right? So everyone in this, you know, listening to us you have a role to play to make sure na okay ang metaverse natin, you know, security wise, taking care of each other, making sure everyone is safe in that metaverse. Yun ang magiging future natin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, both of our speakers. So IT will persist regardless of whatever outcome we have from this pandemic. Okay, now this is a question for both speakers still. This is from Jeshro Dave Amarante. What is the best IDE to learn for beginners?
Python? In terms of language ba yan? Yeah? I guess Python.
I would assume so.
Yes. Kasi there are many different languages, at least for me, and maybe for other fields in the area of data science, data analytics, and even app dev, data ML ops, data ops, like all these fields and yung mga areas na to. Python is becoming one of the like more popular languages, and there are many different interfaces that you can use. But as long as it works with Python, I guess yun yung where we are going. Like used to be, if you're more on the stats, diba, you have the R as the main language for statisticians, like we're those working with data science, but now Python, and there are more languages available out there and different IDEs. So I guess it depends on what you want to do.
I agree with Janet. In our industry, in the networking side, we are using also Python for DevNet. So it's been a very useful ID tool for us. So I believe Python is also for me.
Though there's a new trend in technology where they say na regardless of what language you are using, eventually mag-merge. So whether you're using Java, you're using C, Python, R, pag nagsabay-sabay, nag-collaborate ang mga developers together, pretty much it doesn't matter like what code you're using. Yeah, that's kind of
I agree. I agree. And well, in Southwestern University, we decided to choose Python as well as the first programming language. Well, primarily because it's easier to learn compared to the usual languages before, like Java or C, as a first programming language. So to our senior high school students who are in a way afraid of programming now, don't be, because we have seen in our students na yung mga kahit hindi marunong nung una, they were able to catch up because Python basically is more humanly readable. Meaning if you read the code, you understand basically what it tries to do, right? But tama yung speakers natin, it's not really the language itself. It's how you would understand yung logic that you will use in solving a problem. Whatever language you will start to learn, it doesn't really matter as long as you would know how to maybe translate a real life situation into something that you can use a computer on, right? Tinatawag natin na computational thinking. And of course, we will help you because yung usual transition from being a high school student or senior high school student to being an IT student, sometimes for others, it's really daunting. No? There will be new concepts that you will be learning kaagad na hindi ka pa na-expose. But we'll make it easier for you. And the good thing is that tools right now sa IT have really developed in a way na learning is a lot more easier than in previous years. Like Janet mentioned, yung low code or no code platforms, we will be using that to make it easier for you to design IT solutions even though hindi ka talaga magaling mag-program. So don't worry about that. We will be guiding you in those processes or steps.
To inspire our listeners, our audience, to share with you, like just recently, we ran like a DG Girls event, hackathon in Singapore. Mga 10 years old, from 10 to 13 yata, 10 to 18 years old na mga students. And they, wala tong programming skills. And they did a hackathon and came up with games using Minecraft in 2 days. So imagine, totally no background, binigyan lang sila ng problem statement, 10 years old to 18 years old. They managed to come up with a working game in Minecraft. So that's how, if you want to do it, you can do it. Yeah.
Thank you for your responses. Maybe we can also do something like that here in Southwestern, sir.
Yes.
Event.
We've done hackathons before and we will be doing it also.
Okay. All right. So we have another question. This is from David Jimmel. These are to all of our speakers and to Sir Regan. Do you have to get an IT degree to progress through IT? Is it an advantage to succeed as an IT professional? So two different students have the same question.
Well, I think for me, as yung myth buster ko kanina, no, you don't need to, it's vice versa. IT grads, you do not necessarily have to be in an IT profession. And if you are with a non-IT background, you also you will not necessarily end up in a IT job. Like hindi siya mandatory. So I guess it's a very flexible field. As I said, it's a basic skill that you eventually have to learn, but it doesn't mean that yun lang IT profession lang yung mapupuntahan mo. Yeah, so I guess the possibilities, are endless, right? So it's again back to, I think common theme natin ngayon is back to where your passion is, and IT is just a tool that you can use to reach or to achieve that dream.
Yeah, for me, although it's not that required, it's the skill that matters. But having a degree actually helps you develop that soft skills that you need, those basic skills that you need. And for me, having that kind of background, and even most of the companies, they look for someone who graduated with a bachelor's degree in hiring, not upon hiring. But because of the global requirement where you could just apply online as a freelance, they don't need that bachelor's degree. They just need to prove that you have that skill. You have that skill that you can do the job. So it depends on you. I would say it depends on you and where you want to position yourself. But for me, having a bachelor's degree as a baseline for everything, for me, is important. It's at least it gives me that luxury to say, okay, I have graduated bachelor's degree before going into, while you're still young, no? Because the field in IT is like me. I've been working for 20 years, but still I'm learning, you know. So what's 5 years on that 40 years in your or lifetime of working in IT? So that's just my opinion. So thank you.
Well, on my end, well, I would say it's not really a requirement. Like, for example, Google doesn't require a degree to hire you if you have the right skills for, for what it's looking for, right? But unfortunately, in the Philippines, many companies still require that college degree as a baseline requirement, right? Although we've talked to IT managers in various companies who said that actually they hire non-college graduates or mga students pa rin. But of course, they look at what skills do these students bring in so that they will be hiring them, right? But as Jan mentioned, there are many opportunities pa rin for IT in the freelance community, freelance environment. You don't really need a degree to be able to do IT freelance work. And that's a good thing about us at IT because, there are so many opportunities na even if you're just a student, as long as you have the proper skills for that particular requirement, pwede mong gawin. So it's not a limiting factor in a way because kaya mong gawin. You don't have a degree, the company will get you, right? But at the end of the day, in our program, we will balance that out so that if you really want your degree, because in reality, some companies require that degree, for example, for promotion in your career, right? You can earn that degree while working. So that's how we design our program, having those realizations, trying to balance out the reality in the real world na may mga nangangailangan talaga na college degree, and yet some companies are hiring students without college degrees pa.
Okay, thank you for all of your responses. Now we have another lengthy question, but this is directed to Sir Acebes. We have a question from Hans Seno of Southwestern University, BSIT, section 1A1, complete details. How can I stay up to date with the needs of the industry? Do you innovate or persuade people into thinking they have a need for something? Or do you simply follow what everyone else in the same field is doing and tackle an already existing problem? If both, how did you balance it? Again, so how can I stay up to date with the needs of the industry? Do you innovate or persuade people into thinking they have a need for something? Or do you simply follow what everyone else in the same field is doing and tackle an already existing problem? If both, how do you balance it?
All right. Very good question. For me, I do I do solutioning. So when I encounter I usually solve problems rather than creating an opportunity. In our industry, when you example, most of the companies, they have this budget. They try to allocate this budget annually. You know? Sometimes we create the need so that we can use this budget. Uh, but mostly this need is for us to fix a solution or a problem. You know? And most of the time, the industry offers a solution which we don't need at the moment. For example, there is this highly automated technology that comes in, but at the moment, the company does not need it. Then you need to balance between what is the current need of the company and what is the the trend nowadays. So for me, I always look at the customer's perspective, which is the customer or the company that I'm working at. So whatever their need is and whatever the requirement, if yun lang yung kailangan nila, then you just focus on that rather than giving them a whole lot of solution where in fact they only need a portion of it. So it ends up they bloated the budget and they wasted a lot of resources. So for me, I look at the problem, I balance the problem and try to create a suitable solution that would solve that problem only. But I also need to look at what will happen after 3 years or after 5 years. So there's kind of balancing that you need to do. But most of the time, I do offer solutions to a problem rather than offering technologies that are not suitable for the requirement. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay, thank you, Sir John. We're down to our last two questions. And our second to the last question is for Dean Regan. One of our students from Balamban, senior high school student from Balamban, Cebu, is asking, need ba may computer or laptop ako to study IT in your school?
A very interesting question, and we've had that challenge ever since the pandemic started. Because in reality, many of our students don't have their own computers yet. Yeah, we know that many of our first-year students, they come into us without computers yet. So that's why before the pandemic, the computer laboratories we had in school were very useful. But then when the pandemic struck, we had to find ways. Of course, we can't tell a student if they can't afford it to buy a laptop or a computer, right? So what we did was, if they have a smartphone, and many or almost actually all of them have smartphones. So what we did was to find ways wherein the students can still do programming, for example, using the mobile phone. Like for example, using what we call emulators. You can use online compilers as well, wherein you type the code into your smartphone. It's difficult, but then you can run it in using an online compiler. Much like using a computer. The process might be longer, but it allows you to still learn how to do programming, for instance. And then some students that don't have computers, we actually pair them with ones who do, like yung malapit sa kanila, wherein it's possible for them to still do collaborative work, wherein kahit na text lang yung isa na nagko-code, sinesend niya dun sa isang student na may computer, it allows that process to happen. So to answer the question, you don't really need it if you can't afford it kasi there are various ways of learning. And of course, we also open up our laboratories, of course, following health and safety protocols for you to use if you don't have a computer yet. But of course, along your journey in the program, it will really help if you have your own capable device. I mean, capable means if, for example, you do mobile app development, right? Or if you want to develop a game, those projects will require higher computing requirements, right? Specifications. So you'll be able to do it. So the The answer is is it malabo ba? But you don't really need it if you, yeah, we'll find ways for you to be able to learn. But it will be really great if you can find a computer that you can use along the way. While you don't have it, we have the facilities in school.
One of the great investments, ang laptop. Yeah.
Yes.
To add to that, no, like I think not just Microsoft, but many other companies, computer companies, are trying to find ways then, because of the pandemic, to make laptops more accessible to more users. So you will find, and hindi ako totally familiar with our programs, but I've seen it. Like we have Microsoft for Students, and I think in one of the announcements by Satya, who is our CEO, is that they have really dropped the prices of computers para lang for especially for students. So yeah, so these are some of the things that I think you can look out for, and even universities can look out for to tag team with tech companies to see how we can provide hardware and software to students. And even yung Azure that we are using, merong mga free credits for students. So that one, you can go to an internet shop, log in using your login account or user account, and you can basically try out all the different services and products without having your own computer. Yeah. So yeah, I think the possibilities will be coming.
Yes, and I don't have the details yet, but yeah, we have been discussing in FEMA Education how we can provide devices at a lower cost to our students, because we really see it as a challenge to many of them, to a lot of them.
Okay, thank you for your answers. That's a very inclusive approach to the needs of our students. And hopefully it will encourage them to come join us in our program. Okay, and we are on to our last question. This is a question to both of our speakers, and a very important question for all of our attendees. So, is IT a good paying career?
Generic answer, well, yes, it is. But I guess from what I'm seeing, right, again, it all depends on what you're doing. IT is a big field, and it depends on what value you are generating, right, when you start doing work. And I think that's for everyone to think about. It's not just like, again, it's not just like coding, making sure that it runs, but it's really what's the value that you're generating out of it. It's something similar to pag nagluto tayo, diba? Like, it's just randomly putting all the ingredients together, luto na, okay, done, right? Do you think someone will pay a good price for it? Syempre hindi. But if you actually make the most out of your skills in a company that you work with, you deliver value, you create value, you do innovations, then yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I agree with Janet. It's the value that you put in that pays you. So I agree. Even if when I first my career, when I first started, if you always look at your pay, that your work, then you will not have it. Secret for a higher pay is for you to give value to your company. They look at you as someone that is a critical for their company, and then they see you as someone they can rely on. No? But don't. Sometimes we hoard knowledge just to do that. No, it's not that. It's not that. It's something that the more you share your knowledge, the more you're able to give value to your colleagues, to the company you work in. You'll just be surprised that you'll be given a raise after even within the year. So just put your passion into it and give value to the company. So I think that's a secret for having a good salary.
That's really true, and that's a good call out, no? Kasi especially like I'm openly gonna share this with you. Like in Microsoft, when we are doing the performance evaluation, it's not just individual contribution that is being measured, but it's how much you have helped others succeed. So, take note. So that's why yung going back to yung presentation kanina ni John, diba? Like collaboration. If you're a team player, that's kind of will put you into that success zone, right? Kasi it's how you contribute and at the same time how you help others. So how you even kind of make others shine. So yeah, it's all in one package. So that would determine yung pay. And I guess it's not just in IT, diba? It's in all industries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your responses. So definitely soft skills help in IT. No? And that was presented clearly by Sir Acebes earlier on. Okay, so yeah, I hope that answers all of your questions. And as much as we want to entertain more questions, our time is unfortunately up. Thank you for those who have sent in their questions and clarifications. For inquiries, contact us through 0917-801-1525 or through our hotline numbers 0917-2082-0539 for guidance and assistance. You can ask further questions through these different contact numbers. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, dear students, we hope that you were able to gather important lessons and realizations on the field of information technology through our speakers from Microsoft Asia Pacific region and Lexmark International. To everyone joining us in this IT webinar, thank you very much for your time. Don't forget that this is just the beginning of the month-long IT Career Summit. Don't miss the other webinars that will highlight IT employment trends like software developer, online and mobile developer, web developer, and game designer. Like and follow the official FB page of the College of Information Technology of Southwestern University FINMA for more details and important updates. This has been your host, Valerie Escropolo, leaving you with this reminder. At Southwestern University FINMA College of Information Technology, IT, the way it should be.
Salamat, Janet. Salamat, John. I think those were excellent presentations.
Thank you. Naka-live pa rin.
I don't know. Are we still live?
It's okay, sir. Not yet. Not anymore po.
Okay, thank you. I think we reached at the highest 900. Am I right? 900 on FB and on Zoom. So marami. So salamat talaga. I think that was very helpful. Please expect a small thank you token that will be sent to you some way, somehow. Siyempre, na-challenge kami, Janet, kasi nasa Singapore ka.
We will find a way.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's very helpful. And you know what I liked about both your presentations was they were very personal. So you both shared your own personal voyages and journeys. Kaya maganda. And
ang team natin is about authenticity.
All right, you know.
Can relate.
Yeah. Well, that's so funny. I was listening to a LinkedIn. I was listening to a podcast on my way to work, and they actually shared there was a LinkedIn ad, and the LinkedIn ad said that is the thrust now of all of the CVs now, authenticity in searching for employees. So nakakatawa. Yeah. Yun lang, salamat Jan, Janet, maraming salamat again. And,
Sir?
you know, I was listening.
Thank you.
Yes?
Sir, we
Yes.
wanted sana to ask for a photo shoot po, photo opportunity.
Sure,
sticker and
sure.
videos. Sige po.
As long as everybody opens the cameras. Are you fixing this so that
Yes, they'll fix the screen will be
included?
yes.
Yeah. So I was looking at both of your credentials. Alam mo, Rica, di ba kailangan mo na ma-mentor at sa mga faculty, mga part-time faculty?
Yes, sir.
Yun.
Be
Okay,
getting
you know,
in touch
whatever.
soon.
Okay po. Technical team, are we ready? Okay, sir. Smile. Another one.
Tahimik lahat, ano?
Okay po. That's it, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janet. John,
Thank
maraming
you.
salamat
Thank you,
ulit. Take
Janet.
care.
Take
Thank
care.
you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Get in
Stay
touch
safe,
again.
Regan. Ina, congratulations. Good job. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
sir.
Sir.
Salamat din po.
So I will